be soon starting with our last session for today, which is from blueprint to reality electronics manufacturing Vanguard. This will be moderated by our partner GRCS Telecom, Mr. Rahul Hakim. Uh, and our panelists will be Mr. Alexander Pabst, who is the VP Market Segment Wireless for Rode and Swaz. We have Mr. Gaurav Basu, who is Senior VP with Business Development in VVDN. So I'd request all of you to kindly join us on stage, sir.
We'll kind of continue with whatever we had, and I think there's an advantage for us because the entire audience is all captive now. So we have a fully captive audience, and you can ask questions as well, right? Because what we have here, and I'm telling you because I spoke to both Alexander and I spoke to Gaurav. There's a plethora of information, believe me, which probably is not possible on a traditional panel. Because in traditional panel, we get bound by what do you ask, whom do you ask, there's an order of priority. And then everybody wants to answer something very specific to them. But then what I've agreed with these gentlemen is that we can ask them anything. And especially to Alexander, what is his choice of food in India? And what else would he want to do in India beyond coming to this trade show? So with this, I think very warm welcome, Alexander, once again. Gaurav, you have a native again, welcome you back on the stage. So if there's anything that you guys would want to ask them beforehand, I think you can raise your hands now, and what we'll try and do is weave it as a part of the conversation. So while I do have some questions, but I think we'll keep it more free-flowing, given that we have an audience and we have an excellent chance to really interact with some of the stalwarts that you have ever seen out here, right? So any questions up front? Anybody? Otherwise, I'm going to call out names. Yatin, anything from you? Huh? Okay. So I think, Alexander, you've been here in India. You've seen a fair bit of vibrancy out here in the market. So what is it that you feel is the outlook for India in the next 4 or 5 years? And how do you think organizations as yourself will kind of enable the whole ecosystem to move forward? We've come a long way, and everybody talks about it from 2014 when we had a manufacturing base which was kind of minuscule to what we have today. While it's still not there, but it's still progressing on the global front.
So as I said, at the moment I see India as a very vibrant country. It's a steep path of increasing capacity, of really also prospering much more. So, and manufacturing, I mean, we heard also from your Premier, Mr. Modi, on Monday that it's a clear goal to become not an import country, but an exporting country, and not only on software, but also on hardware. So this is what I'm currently expecting for the next couple of years here from India.
Yeah. So in terms of what do you think are the revolutions and trends in the overall ecosystem?
Yeah, so there are a couple of trends. I mean, one is certainly the level of automation and also the flexibility in the production lines. And India is actually in a great position for that because you are doing a lot of greenfield installations right now for production. If I compare this to Europe and other established places, they have lots of production lines that have wired connection in between the different stations, and is now moving to implement IoT also for the production lines to wirelessly connect them in order to gain some flexibility. There was one example by an automotive company who changed from a cable to a they just changed the setup to a different product, and they needed to rewire 1,000 kilometers of cable to do that. So if you think about this, and you imagine that every station has a wireless module, and you just remove it, and you slightly arrange your network settings, that's a huge advantage because it gives you flexibility. This is something we are seeing, and with this, obviously, and we are also using this in our own manufacturing line to kind of, I would say, get a prediction on customer problems that we will be asked in the near future. So we gather our own experience of what customers might see when they go from wire to wireless. And there are a couple of issues that we are addressing and helping to solve with our test equipment.
Absolutely. So, Gaurav, you talked about some aspects in terms of trends. You've been a first generation manufacturer and fairly successful one at that. Uh, how has the outlook changed for you in terms of what is possible and what you earlier thought was possible, and where do you see it going forward?
So, so yeah, that's we've never been called that, but that I'll carry that term of first generation manufacturing, right? So, and that's actually pretty interesting thing, right? And so I'll tell you all, this is actually moving forward exactly the way we envisioned in 2007, right? And we were always very optimistic about the see, India is a very different sort of a people, right, and a different country, right, and we never felt that we would move like some of our neighbors in the east are moving. We never felt that we would be able to move in the same fashion, right? No two countries have moved in the same fashion. And one thing that we always knew was that if we have to move in a productive manner, it has to be with engineering and manufacturing together, right? If we try to keep moving and press forward, saying that we are just manufacturing with manufacturing alone, then we are just playing into the hands of other people, other countries, other systems, other economies who have the tech, right? And then you yourself are allowing yourself to be restricted to the lowest value addition in the entire scale, right? So that was the only thing that we wish could play out better on a macro scale throughout the country. Of course, we have stuck to it, right? So we are still a good mix of both the on the engineering side as well as the manufacturing side. But we would like to see more of that. Apart from that, yes, the way the growth is happening, the market has been recognized by the world, right? And if you compare it with other countries, like let's say Vietnam benefited a lot when the geopolitical things started coming
Realignment
up.
of global supply chain.
Realignment,
Yeah.
you could call it that, right? And from a purely manufacturing value add perspective, even if you said supply chain, if I double click into supply chain, the supply chain still remain concentrated in a certain country, right? From the components and the raw material, input material perspective. But the manufacturing value add moved very quickly into Vietnam when that happened, right? And but now, and then it was Thailand, Malaysia, everywhere, right? So but even Malaysia, it's been popular for semiconductors since a very long time, but it became popular for manufacturing as well. But none of them brought together this massive workforce, skilled workforce, and this massive, fast-growing market, right? Nobody would deny today that if there is a large, fast growing market, it's only India today in the world, right? 10 years down the line, a few years down the line, would it be Africa? Would it be Middle East? Maybe, but today it is India, right, in terms of a non-saturated, fast-growing market. So, with that in mind, right, this is playing out exactly how we would like to. But yes, again, coming to your point, the difference in what we thought we would see in India, not in VVDN, but in India, more of engineering, right, along with the manufacturing, that would give more muscle and more, it would shift the center of gravity more towards India. That is what we would like to see more.
Absolutely well put.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about the whole ecosystem, a lot of it has also been driven by a forward-looking vision of the government. And starting 2014, when he talked about the first time the Make in India initiative, and obviously, it was supposed to be not electronics, but it was supposed to be an overall ecosystem for manufacturing. I think electronics is something that really caught on and did really well. Then we had a national policy on electronics. Then we had a scheme on PLI, and then we had MSIPs, we had the cluster scheme, the phase manufacturing program, which envisaged we talked about in the day, of how different components would be manufactured at different phases, and that would become the baseline for ultimate component. Obviously, we talk about mobile handsets because that's the largest captive consumption for us as well in India. Other than that, out of these, what you believe has had the highest value impact in terms of driving this thing forward? And is there anything that you would want in terms of your wish or organization like yourself, which would make that a success? And obviously, Alexander, come to you also, because ultimately you are one of the largest suppliers to the entire ecosystem. What is it that you would also want to see from a government perspective to take this even further?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's certainly the scale going up. We currently see that device production, so handsets, Wi-Fi routers, and things like that, this is going up in India. We also would like to see more production in the infrastructure part of radio units, base stations. This is something that still seems to come a lot from outside. We're working hard since a couple of years to basically apply these very smart processes and also equipments that we are using in device production for many, many years, and where we are market leader, to apply these same principles to the infrastructure production. And there's actually, as I said, for greenfield installations of production lines in India, there's a huge gain to use these advantages, become just really smart and efficient manufacturing also on the infrastructure side.
Yeah. So Gaurav, your thoughts?
So here, I think I'll just borrow the similar perspective, right? So on the one big impact, of course, has been the way the PLIs have been structured. I mean, of course, there being a PLI or other programs and other incentives itself was a big step, right, compared to what we have been doing or not doing in the past decades, right? But the way it evolved when we did, so Alexander, we had some PLI 2.0s as well, right? So the government and the authorities and organizations, everybody recognized that there is a better way to do what we are trying to do, right? And the way it acknowledged the backward integration, right? The acknowledgement that just being a fringe manufacturer or a last mile manufacturer will not work. It will not cut it for India. And it won't even satisfy the aspirations of such a young population. And this is the largest young population that we have in the world, right? And the youngest population that we have in the world, right? So, and the way it drilled down into giving more incentives for backward integration, pushing to build the component system, whether it can be more successful, whether it could have been drafted in a better manner, etc., that those will all be conversations. But the fact that we thought in that way, I think that was a big drive, right? And of course, the market that is India, right? That itself is a big pull, right? Like RNS is focusing a lot on India as a market, right? Even if there were a lot of incentives and the market wouldn't have been there, it wouldn't have worked,
Absolutely.
right? But this is a good mix of market, the incentives, the programs that the government is doing, plus the upskilling of the workforce that is also happening at a rapid pace, right? All of that put together, I think, is creating a good environment. But we should still there are a lot of, this long way to go, right? And we are also, even when we are doing our policies, and we see that the government is listening, and you are a big part of that complete machinery about giving feedback and inputs, etc., right? That sometimes we are creating a policy and then we are creating another one which sort of like counters the first one, right? And it doesn't allow it to take full effect and full impact, right? And we still have things like SCOMET, etc., to deal with, right, which is somewhere creating hindrances. We are not TAA, right, compliant for US supplies, etc. So there are these small things. But the fact that these are coming into the picture is because we took those first steps in the incentives, programs, untapping as a market. We went out and we invited people to come and market into India. And then we said that also build in India. I think those were very important things. We may say that there are still so many challenges, but these challenges would not even have come up, right, hadn't we gone here. Even when we keep progressing, there will be other challenges. US has challenges, right? Yeah. Europe has challenges, right? Everyone has challenges. But I think the incentives were definitely a good way forward that at least showed intent. Plus, the fact that I wouldn't still call it that we are at a great level in terms of ease of doing business.
Yes.
But the fact that things became more open, visible, gave more confidence to corporates overseas to come and conduct operations in India. Even if it is sales operations or a marketing operation, right? A lot of people have even shied away from having a branch office in India. And we don't want to do it, right? But now people are again coming back in. One interesting observation, right, I'll tell you, is that we faced this challenge. I think the industry faced this challenge. We saw it because we were a little bit forward in terms of design and manufacturing as well. Was that now the Europe OEMs based out of US and Europe, right, still were faced with this unique challenge that when they wanted to come into India, they were still working with a lot of ODMs, the guys who were actually designing and manufacturing the products for them since decades. Excellent relationships, great people in Taiwan and China, right? And they were faced with a challenge that they either had to choose them or an Indian ODM like Vividian, right? And maybe a few others as well. So we went back, we took a step back and we said that this is not working out, right? So we started building partnerships with the Taiwan ODMs, right? Because that choice was very difficult and we were getting stuck in a catch-22 situation. And it was actually hurting us over the last couple of years. The way the incentives should have been leveraged, they were not being leveraged. So now we are in partnerships with multiple ODMs in different countries, right, who already have the OEMs as customers. And we are extending as a service, as a partner in India. Not when I say we, not Vividian, companies like Vividian, not just Vividian, right? A lot of other manufacturing companies that we have a good partner in India, right? Please, you go ahead and execute your market penetration activities there, right? And this was blocked for a long time because the companies were not wanting to set up operations themselves in India. And now a lot of them have started and feeling free and confident about setting up their own operations as well. So that has untapped things a little bit. But at the same time, you know, we are constantly trying to ask questions from OEMs as well as ODMs overseas that, you know, what more do you want in India, right? Because we know that there are still gaps, right? So what do you need for us to become not just a factory for India requirements, but just another manufacturing location for you guys?
Absolutely, very well put. And I was about to ask you that question, both again to Alexander as well, because ultimately, whatever you manufacture, how it is treated from other countries in terms of how well you do as exports is a true test of your manufacturing prowess. Because while we'll have enough captive consumption from an India perspective, but if you have to be globally competitive, it can only be tested when you are able to export, and you are able to export a lot. And Alexander, from that perspective, you know, in terms of what do you believe, what kind of emerging technologies should be there, which will kind of help India improve its export competitiveness? So in terms of what do you believe in terms of technologies, both emerging and current, which will help India improve its competitiveness in electronics manufacturing?
For ourselves, our measurements.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it's, for us, we try to be where the market and our customers are. So it's not so much about the emerging technologies. I think this is there. If the market here in India continues to grow, and if the scheme of a manufacturer in India remains as it is, we will certainly also continue to invest here in India and also expand our production. We have a very minimal production right now for some niche products. We don't have much more right now because it still works, and it's our belief that it's important, like you just said earlier on, to have engineering and production close together and maybe basically in one hand. So our production facilities are currently in Germany and in Czech Republic. So it's basically 2-3 hours drive from Rodenfors. It's more kilometers than you would get here in India, but it's still in reach and in arm's length. So we can, and this ensures our quality and our excellence. Still, over the years, we have now more than 200 R&D engineers here in India. Okay. So this has become also a significant development hub. So it's only consequent to say, okay, at some point of time, we will also need to do the manufacturing here in India.
Yeah, you're right. It is already India's been a great design hub for the likes of even Cisco, Intel, AMD, even for that matter, Qualcomm talks about India being one of the largest design centers everywhere. But the fact is, the manufacturing part is still not there. And I think probably a lot of it boils down also to the fact that do we have the right skills for manufacturing, and what will it take for us as a country, and as a question to you both, to get the skilling right from a manufacturing perspective, because a lot of it is not just regular manufacturing, it's high precision manufacturing, which probably requires a very different kind of skills, mindsets, and probably training from a very different level. How do you believe that one can overcome the skilling challenge?
Maybe we start. I mean, the skill set for manufacturing it depends on what you manufacture, first of all. And usually you don't start with a very high end, you start with something reasonable. And the other thing is also that the manufacturing tools that you supply to the people who actually need to do it, they need to support them in their work. So we're trying also to use advanced tools to make it easy for the people to run these tests. Yeah, so we're doing automation to a high level. We're supplying tools for maintenance of the products, that you don't get unexpected failures. Like we have a predictive maintenance system and usability tracking of all the instruments, so that just relieves certain tasks from the individual production workers, that we don't need the very highest skilled workers to just build our products. In the past, I was always, when we did everything still very manual, there was one guy with a golden thumb, and he was the only guy who was able to bend those cables exactly in the way that we needed them. This guy has been retired since 10 years, and you can do a lot by improving manufacturing processes.
Absolutely. So, Gaurav, you talked about setting up a state-of-the-art center in South India. So, how are you looking at skilling also, along with what Alexander just said?
Yeah, so this is from a skills perspective. VVD, I mean, India has a different problem as well. It has a problem of plenty, right? So while a lot of overseas large-scale manufacturing would not, like in Europe, right? Nobody would think twice before automating the plant, right? And we don't find the ROI here, right? So we are left with a very unique situation that it's always more cost-effective to do it manually in India, right? And but we also have the challenge, we have to develop the skills, right? So wherever the way we have approached it, and the government has very good incentives as well, right? In on-the-job trainings, etc. In fact, you mentioned the expansion down south, so that's in the town of Polachi. We did one of the experiments, right? So we left the main cities, we left the tier 1, right? And we started working with tier 2 city, right? And it's a town. And we went and set up inside a university campus, right? So we set up our engineering in the university campus, right? So as I said, right, we are never leaving the mantra of we are always keeping engineering and manufacturing together, right? So even physically, right, co-located. So, and it worked out so well. The skill, we invested in a lab, we threw it open. I'm just taking an example of VVDN because this just says, I'm sure a lot of other organizations would do it too. But since we saw this being successful, so while there are a lot of programs, incentives, you still have to create a path of how to do it, right? We were wondering how to do it. We went ahead and we did this. We invested in a lab. We kept it open for the, all the college students, the diploma students to come in and start working and tinkering in the lab without any obligations, right? It was a big hit. Within 15 months, we built a 1,100 people core engineering team in Polachi. Right? Not all from fresh, of course, some of the other leadership also migrated there. And that has been one of our most successful and efficient centers today with lowest attrition, right? So we have to, I think it's up to the corporates now to figure out innovative ways, right? Of course, we are still leveraging a lot of government programs, we're taking some advantages, but the idea is to actually create skill. the engineering colleges, diploma colleges, ITI colleges are there, right? Now the industry also has to step up and engage more, right, for doing this. Actually, we did this first. Then after that, we got to know that there were government programs where we could actually get some commercial benefit as well, right? So it is up to the corporates now, right? There are enough programs. There is enough young population there which needs to be employed. Now it's up to the corporates to figure out different innovative ways to do it, right? And then purely manufacturing skill will always be on the job, right? And there are ways where other factories have done it, other manufacturing countries have done it. We need to just stick to the same things, and we need to, of course, put in good level of automation as well, so that there is a good mix of interchangeable skills, because we also don't want to get stuck, and we see that ourselves, right? That we train in a certain product or a certain product segment, that product segment goes low, another one comes high, and we are training again, right? So it has to be the cross-functional sort of a training ecosystem. So there's a lot of attention that the corporates now need to pay to learn how to train the workforce and get it up. Workforce is available, market is available, everything else is there, but skilled workforce has to be developed. It's not the toughest pieces, but it's a very important piece to be there, and it has to be well complemented with good thought out industrial engineering, process engineering, right, which does not allow everything to be dependent on the skills and skill sets. So it's a mix of everything, which now the corporates have to learn very quickly, right? That's what my perspective is on the skill development.
I think quite an interesting perspective. And I think because you talked about other countries, and I think that's a question I'll put to Alexander. So Alexander, we have other emerging markets, and I'm not kind of leaving China out of it. So because obviously China is in a league of its own, and we have markets like countries like Vietnam, you have Indonesia, you have Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and all of them are vying for the share of the same pie. And what, in your view, are their respective competitive advantages, and what will it take for India to probably make sure that we are better than them, or we are better equipped, or we are more competitive?
Yeah, I think something we discussed actually over there in the lounge is
Yes.
Certainly it's not just enough to have the plants and the manufacturing equipment. You also need to have the service with it. So it's very important, and this is where we are taking also specific focus to build up the servicing capability, that we are able to maintain the equipment, that we are able to repair the equipment, that we are able to train also the operators. Yeah. Because to ramp up such a production is a huge effort. Training is not to be underestimated, because it doesn't help you if the people obviously need to be able to operate the equipment, also work with some easy fail cases, find out if something is going wrong, because it's not necessarily it's not black and white. Yeah, some things might just drift over time, and you need people that, at least on a group level, to oversee the activities that are happening there. So it's training, it's support, it's maintenance, it's calibration of the equipment, and it's also sometimes rental and spare instruments. Yeah, because if something fails, you don't want a complete production line to be down. So you need a reliable supplier that's able to help you out in that case, and to give you a replacement instrument just to make sure that things can go on. Production has a very, very strong demand for uptime. I always tend to compare R&D to production a little bit. In production, you have this 99.9999% yield and uptime that you like to have. In R&D, yeah, okay, if something doesn't work for a day, it's not mission critical. It doesn't kill you. In production, this easily kills tens and hundreds of thousands of euros if you're down by a day. And this is what needs to be there. You need to have a trustworthy partner that stands in your back and makes sure you keep your stuff up and running.
Absolutely.
So Gaurav, your thoughts? All 5 countries, what you believe is what are they doing better, and what do you believe is the most competitive versus what we are doing out here?
I think it's actually it's so different that I don't compare it in terms of a better or a worse sort of a thing. I mean, see, they've done it a certain way, we should be very keen observers and learners on how it was done there, adopt it, right, and adapt to it, right, in our own way. If we take the same template and try to push it here, it's not going to work, right? And we already had some instances where it was tried and it didn't work out, right? But the ground level important things which Alexander pointed out, right? And it was wonderful that it was very well articulated by Alexander, right? Basic things, right? You just need uptime, right? And he put it very kindly and very gently, right? It's yeah, it's a more harsher mandatory requirement in manufacturing.
He's being politically correct.
He's been politically correct. Maybe, yeah.
Yes, you obviously also have some harsh environmental conditions sometimes to the equipment that's there. Yeah.
And and also the fact that you're flanked by 2 Indians, so yeah, I can appreciate your position.
But one thing to just tap on what you just said earlier on, I think you're in a kind of unique position by combining the R&D, the engineering, with the production, because you can also think certain things new, which is different to just doing an OEM production somewhere in Malaysia, and you just get the complete production guidelines and you get the production equipment from where it was before. Here you can think things new and just improve.
Correct. And so let's stick to the example that Alexander brought up, right? So when we started the manufacturing, right? So maybe we became serious manufacturers in around the 2013-14 timeframe. We started in 2007, Alexander, right? So and there, because of our engineering background and DNA, the fact that the testing has to be automated came very naturally to us, right? That we could have put 10 people there and doing different probing and all these things for the products, but it came very naturally to us. No, it should be automated, it should be connected to a server, and I should be able to monitor it sitting somewhere else, right? And that kept growing steadily. And today we have almost 200 people working on testing automation alone, and that is only for our captive requirement. That's impressive, right? And we don't compare it with a pure automation to labor ROI, right? We are saying we do it from a continuity perspective, quality perspective, traceability perspective, right? And a uniformity perspective, right? And we are continuous now. A lot of large successful factories in India, right, who may have replicated the production lines or migrated production lines of popular products from China or from Vietnam and everywhere, they are struggling to find sustenance support, uptime support, right? Because the complete ecosystem hasn't moved here, right? So we are now finding ourselves supporting our competitors in testing automation.
That's
right?
interesting.
And sustenance, right? Yeah. So this is just one part of the puzzle, right? Then there are component level things, right? Which now we have started manufacturing components, right? Like modules, antennas. Of course, we're doing the LTE antennas as well for the Ericssons and everyone of the world. We're also doing the small antennas, patch antennas, Wi-Fi antennas, which are going into, we still need the VNA and everything, right? All the RNS equipment. So everything, it's a big machinery which has to come together with all the gears working in tandem, right? So, but we feel the biggest ones are in motion, or rather the smallest ones are in motion, right? To somewhere down the line set the big wheel rolling. But we have to continuously keep pressing towards going deeper and deeper into the technical aspects of things, right? To understand the system aspect of things, right? How important it is, how crucial it is to make sure the first pass yield is perfect, right? Your downtime is minimum, right? If not zero altogether. Reverse logistics,
yes,
right? And all of that we have to just catch up to the other countries, the standards that they have already established, See, we have to understand, they also, all this learning was not homegrown for them either. Right?
Of course.
The IBMs of the world taught what had to be done. The RNSs of the world taught what the VRVs of the world taught them how to do it, right? So we have to just give enough confidence to everyone that it is worth their while to come and do the same with India as well.
Absolutely, because I
Right.
think there are similar examples where Apple has invested in
Yeah.
manufacturers and they've put in their bets when those manufacturers were quite small, and then today they supply a substantial part of the portfolio today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And-
Very
and-
small things, right?
Yeah.
Even some trays, etc., which are used in manufacturing, right? Suddenly you will find that okay, I have a factory, I have an SMT line, beautiful looking, expensive, but I don't have the correct trays to move my PCBs. Absolutely, right? And there you go. So these are, we have to be very keen learners. We cannot see it as a math that somebody just decides, yeah, I'll spend $15 million, I'll get a excellent SMT line. Those are the easy parts now, right? Now we have to focus on getting the ground level working, meeting the standards, and for that, I mean, our team spend time in Taiwan factories. We do. We have an NPI team which is responsible. We spend them. We send them to spend time in Taiwan factories, Vietnam factories, breathe the air, see how people move, right? See how people don't waste time, see how people are focused, right? And how to replicate it here without being just hard on people.
Yeah, making
And-
sure the productivity is right, not just
Yes.
spending enough time, but making sure whatever
Yeah.
time you spend, it's
Yeah.
productively used.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what Germany is famous for. They have the longest breaks, but they have the highest productivity probably anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Probably we need to learn from them as well.
Yeah. We've always been told that there are more holidays in India, but maybe more vacations in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think we talked about this, and I think that's a question to both of you. And obviously, you being a very significant success story. What others, and it could be a competitors also. What all? What 3 or 4 things would you want to kind of highlight as success stories that will really have really shaped India? And it could be a competitors, it could be any initiatives. What all would come to your mind?
So we know that there are some very good manufacturing companies, EMS, right, who have mastered and who also took a very good approach that they decided, right, that I will focus on these products, right? I want to focus on whatever value addition is happening here, and that value addition also increased bit by bit, by the way, right? And they focus, maybe a few years back it was all semi knockdown kits coming in, and us doing just box level assembly, packaging, testing, and just putting out into the market. Maybe that's what all, but a few companies have really put their mind to it. They have put the quality first, right? And that has given their customers and others also the confidence to bring in more value add into them. Now they have started doing CKDs, right? So the PCB assembly has also started happening here, and a few of them have lost focus and they've not been able to maintain the same quality, but a few of them have, right? So that is the way, you get attention, be sincere, deliver, right? Deliver quality, right? Deliver value, right? Don't be cheap, but you have to be cost effective and valuable, right? You deliver value, then ask for the next piece, right? Do the same again, ask for the next piece. Do the same, ask for the next. That's how you keep building. And there are a few companies which have done it very well in India as well, right? Although they haven't done the approach that we have taken about the complete mix, but it's been going well, right? And I think, and of course, the next part that has been going well is the government machinery, right? Which has been, of course, there's obviously everything could have been better and can be better, but it's getting better. The trajectory is correct. So the trajectory is important, right? That is going well. One thing that we still need to really work on is the reverse logistics, some export compliances, etc. We absolutely have to become just another factory location for the OEMs, right? Let's say RNS should not feel for a very long time, although it may be a drive for RMS, a conversation starter that, hey, in order to be successful in India, I think we should start manufacturing there. It may be a starter, but RNS should very quickly get convinced that, hey, I can use India, actually VVDN, as just another factory. Just like I have factories in Asia, this will be another factory. I can ship to any location in the world using this location in India. So that is the step that India needs to graduate to, right? That is where people will start seeing value. That is where the scale will come in, right? That is one piece where I think we need to do a lot of hard work.
So it's just like a product with a different just code of manufacturing location, rest everything remains the same. You really don't bother where it's coming from because it's so standardized and so harmonized that it really doesn't matter.
Correct.
So, Alexander, your thoughts on any notable success stories from India that you want to talk about?
I think we covered pretty much of it. I would be happy. I mean, we would definitely support VVDN in getting there. That we would just ask you to manufacture for us.
Yeah,
that's where we strive for, to get to support the ecosystem to come to a quality level, to come to a reliable level, to come also to a structured processes that is just very competitive on the world level, and because that's what you need to scale.
Totally agree.
so I think we should, we've covered manufacturing, we've covered incentives, we've covered key drivers. So if you have to have any two takes that you would want to kind of take to the government, what would they be? Any two takes that you'd want to take to the government? It could be ease of doing business, it could be anything else, and that goes for both of you. What is it that you would want to kind of highlight? Yeah, absolutely.
Which takes my wish list to the government.
No, any wish list. It could be any wish list, or if I had to ask you to know, what would it take for you to set up shop here?
Sorry, what would it take?
What would it take for you to set up a manufacturing unit here, a full-fledged scale? Yeah.
Before you sign an MOU with an Indian company for manufacturing, any Indian company, not just VVDN, it can be anyone.
Yeah, I mean, as I said initially, for us it's important that there is market for us. Market means that India needs to continue on its very successful path to become more and more a manufacturing place for all kinds of devices that we supply manufacturing solutions to. And the same way also for R&D. I mean, as I said initially, India is growing. Just continue on that path. Then also the market for us is growing significantly here in India. If there's enough market, we will also consider about manufacturing here in India. Certainly, to be honest, some pressure from the government also helps, like this manufacture in India policy, because we've seen this. But I think it's not so comparable because I think it helps with end user product vendors or manufacturers. It doesn't help so much with us because we don't deliver really high quantities. We deliver low quantities, excellent equipment. Oh, okay. Now we come to the sing and dance part, right? So
and I think we got an official signal that we need to wrap up and we need to click our photographs and go back to the dance floor.
Okay.
I think it's been, I think it's a captive audience, guys. I'll tell you, this is probably the most exclusive setup you'll ever get with those two gentlemen. So I don't think we have time for questions. Even if we have time, we don't have the sound for questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions, I think we will be there, and maybe we can do that on a one-on-one because we might hear each other much better than now.
Absolutely. I think we can wrap up the session now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.